Hey guys, I've got a thinking question for you. Martial law has just been declared in a city by you or the city you're in. Let's go with a person that lives in the city. Say you live in Atlanta. Martial law's been declared in Atlanta because all these riots and protests got out of hand. There's military on the grounds, you got curfews. They're doing house-to-house searches. You know, say you work third shift and they ban anybody out after 8 o'clock. So that means you don't go to work. How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay rent? Say, somebody knocks you out, you're a prepper, and they tell you, they tell the government troops that you've got preps, and they come and they start looking for them. The people in the city is going to get railroaded, ramrod bad. They're going to be the one that takes the blunt of martial law. Now, say you live out of ways in the rural areas in the country. We're not going to have it that bad like around here. I live, I live far enough away from these cities that, say Knoxville gets put under martial law. Granted, they might be some helicopters flying over or drones or maybe, military armor coming around checking. But how are we going to prepare for this? We're prepared for EMPs. We're prepared for World War III. We're prepared for natural disasters. We're prepared for everything. But as we're prepared with freedom in mind. During martial law, our freedoms are going to be taken away from us. How are you, how am I going to act? How are we going to handle it? Me, say Knoxville gets martial law. Within the first hour, I will have most of my preps, most of my guns and ammo buried out away from the house, because if you bury them around your house or under stuff, sorry, I got bit by a mosquito. If they do come and search and they see fresh dug up stuff, ground, they're going to figure you're burying something, and they're going to dig it up and take it from you. They're going to search underneath your house, on top of your house, in your house, around your house. I've got enough land around here where a few minutes walking or driving, I can bury it, come back. Then if I do get searched, they ain't going to find it. I'm just going to have a minimum supply here, maybe one 22 or one 20 gauge shotgun, something like that, maybe a bow. All the rest of my stuff is going to be, put away. My house is going to look like a normal, regular house, just food in the cupboards and stuff like that. No stockpiles of stuff. And, that's what I'm going to do. They could watch this video and say, okay, where's your stockpile? Where'd you hide it at? I'm not going to tell them shit. That's for me to know and them to find out, and good luck trying to find out where it's at around this area. Because I've got about, in walking distance, a good 8 to 800 to 1,000 acres I can hide stuff at easily around this area. So I ain't too worried about, you know, that. Even if they do watch this video. But how are you guys going to do it? How are you guys going to prepare? Have you thought about it? Say you take off to your bug out location. You know, they might not be no military troops in your area, but they will be helicopters, they will be jets, they will be drones, and they're going to see your smoke, they're going to see movement, they're going to see your fire, and then they're going to come down and they're going to investigate. So we can't get away from it. I mean, we won't be able to get away from it just because of the technology they have. Are you going to go with the flow, or are you going to cause ripples in the water? Me, I'm just going to be like a normal person. Come out here, you know, do what I do, you know. Go out and work when I can work, when I'm allowed to work, you know. When I'm able to move around, you know, do that. Keep a low profile, not cause any trouble. Because you know, if you go to the store, you're going to be limited on what you can buy. You're going to be limited on areas you can go. You're going to be limited on everything. You know, you're not going to be able to carry a pocket knife with you. You're going to be searched, vehicle searched, body searched a lot. Especially if you live in the city, your homes are going to be searched, because there are going to be so many people who's going to carry grudges on everybody. They're going to be narking on everybody just to give people trouble. Say John down the street don't like Paul 2 doors down. He's going to go to these government officials and going to say, oh, you know, Paul's got this and Paul's got that and Paul's got this, and they're going to go and they're going to search Paul's house. They're going to cause Paul trouble and discomfort just because somebody calls John down the street don't like Paul. I hope you guys understand where I'm going from. That's going to go on a lot. And then you're going to get, what do I want to call them? Underground movement to fight against the martial law. And if you're in that area with them, or somebody just say, hey, so-and-so was sneaking out, and that gives them a red light to turn your world upside down. I mean, there's a lot to go into. You know, I can go into details on, you know, underground units and guerrilla warfare, and, you know, I can make a 5-hour long video. But there's a lot on martial law that people don't think about, you know. We're not going to have no freedom. And like I said, we are preparing for all kinds of disasters and EMPs and this and that, where we still have our freedom. Martial law, we're not going to have freedom. We're going to be very limited on what we can watch, what we can read, what we do, where we go, what we buy, who we talk to. Have you guys thought about that? You know, and the ones in the city where the martial law is declared, you're basically going to be prisoners in your own home. And if you try to get out, you know, if you get caught past curfew trying to sneak out, bug out, you know, you're going to get locked up. And so have you guys thought about this? What is your guys' plan to deal with it? Then you got to think about what happens if they bring UN troops in here. how bad is that going to piss a lot of Americans off, having a foreign government pointing weapons at American citizens and beating American citizens and dragging them off? Will that be allowed? No, I don't think that would be allowed. Well, it depends. If these pussy-ass left hate groups and right hate groups are around, they're going to allow it because they want this stuff. They're getting paid by the elites, by the government officials, and they're getting free advertisement by our local media. So they're bringing this, and they're wanting it. So they'll feel right at home. But us as a normal Americans, we don't want this. We don't want martial law. We don't know. We don't, because it's going to cause a lot of trouble. And martial law is going to lead to other things, because groups are going to form. They're going to be, our military will disintegrate because there's a lot of people aren't going to fire on their families. There's going to be a lot of dissension in the ranks, and it's going to turn into something more than martial law. Martial law will be the first step. Then, and it's not going to be these protests and these domestic terrorist groups are going to bring it onto us, but I don't know. It's martial law will be a very bad thing for us, and a lot of people don't think about it. They don't prep for martial law. They don't think, okay, I'm 15 miles out of the city. It ain't going to affect me. It's going to affect us all. Because like I said, they will be patrolling, and they will be people narking other people out, and there will be people telling lies, informants, and it is going to be hell on us here in our own country. We're going to be locked down prisoners, basically, with no rights, no freedoms. Because when martial law comes into effect, you have no rights, you have no freedom. They tell you to squat, you better squat and start pushing, because if you don't, they have the right to put a bullet in your head for refusing their orders. And nobody's going to question them. So, guys, gals, start making a plan for martial law. I know a lot of people is going to put down, I'm going to my bug out. That bug out's not safe. I don't care if you're in the middle of the forest. There's still helicopters. There's still drones. There's still satellites where they can detect your fire, detect your thermal heat, detect you in the middle of the swamps, in the deserts, in the mountains. How many of us really know where there's dark caves, deep caves with a water source? But we still have to come out to hunt, to gather firewood. Well, we just can't live in the cave. So, there's a lot more to it. Martial law is going to be hell for us American citizens. And especially if they bring in UN troops. That's just going to escalate matters a lot. But have you guys thought about this? Have you guys honestly sat down and thought? You've thought about EMPs, you've thought about natural disasters, you've thought about nuclear war. Have you sat down and really thought about martial law, what you're going to do, how it's going to affect you, how is your area going to be affected? Because granted, some cops will probably quit the police force because they will not want to enforce it. The cops really ain't going to have a choice because they can be arrested when martial law comes into effect. They really aren't going to have the power. It's going to be the government officials, the military, that's going to be in charge of everything. You know, if you can go to the store and say you need diapers, they can refuse you diapers. They can refuse you formula for your babies. They can refuse you food if they want to. Who are you going to complain to? Nobody's going to listen. They can kick in your door, shoot your husband or shoot your wife, come in, take your supplies, beat the crap out of you, take your supplies, take your kids, throw them in FEMA camp and leave you. What are you going to do? Who are you going to complain to? Granted, a lot of people, I'm going to get a lot of comments, I'm going to start shooting back. Yeah, that's what a lot of us would do. But when everybody's firing their semi-automatics at armored personnel carriers, and they got that, what is it, a 50 or a 20 millimeter cannon on there, and they swing it to your house and they open up, you're going to be Swiss cheese. You know, when the soldiers open up fully automatic with their M4s, their hell, I don't even know what the light squad machine gun's called now. When I was in, we had the M60 Hog, then we switched over to the SAW. I don't know what they call it now. I'm old school, sorry. But, you know, a light machine gun, then they open up with the 50, then they open up with the 20 millimeter. What are you going to do? Do you guys know guerrilla tactics? Do you know how to form an underground fighting unit to go up against a professional army? No. A lot of you don't. Maybe 1% does. Other than that, no. So it's going to be different, and it's going to be hard to prepare for martial law. Because you're going to have to walk a straight line and not leave footprints so they can get traced back to you. You're going to have to stay out of their sight. You know, just live your life, but don't cause no ripples. Don't bring any attention to yourself. You know, and you're going to have to change, you know, your lifestyle. It's like I said, it's going to be different, and a lot of people don't think about it because we're preparing for this and we're preparing for that, and we don't stop, put the brakes on, and stop and think martial law. What does that really mean? How is that going to impact me? How's that going to impact my family? How's that going to impact our world? Because our world is going to change, especially the people in the big cities where the martial law is declared. You know, oh, I feel for you guys. I really do. I wish you guys would. If martial law is declared, you will have, I don't know, minutes, maybe 20 or 30 minutes to really get out of the area before it's totally locked down. If that, you know, you're not going to have hours. Yeah, but it's going to be bad. And I feel for you guys in the big cities. But look at what the media is pushing. Look at what these left groups are doing. Look at what these right groups are doing. Look what our government's not doing. Look at what the police and FBI are not doing. Martial law's fixing to start being put in place, and we're going to have to stop and think how we're going to act during martial law. what are we going to do? We're going to have to prep for martial law, because prepping for martial law is totally different than prepping for an EMP. Because like I said, if an EMP happens, we still have our freedom. We still can be armed. We can still move about. Martial law, we don't have freedom. We're not going to be able to be armed. We're not going to have the freedom to move around. So guys, leave me a comment. Tell me what you guys think. Have you thought about this? Have you really sat down and thought about how martial law is going to affect you and affect your area? Have you made plans besides trying to get to your bug out area? Because like I said, they might not be any soldiers around your bug out area, but they're going to be helicopters, they're going to be satellites, they're going to be drones scanning the area. And all it takes is them to see your thermal image or your fire or your smoke, and then you're going to have troops in the area finding out what's going on, who you are, what you got, and they're going to wind up taking your butt to a FEMA camp, which is just another fancy name for a prison camp for Americans. So guys, tell me what you think. Have you thought about this? Have you not thought about this? Are you preparing for it? And maybe ones who's thought about this and who's preparing could, I'm not telling you give up your game plan. I'm telling you give up, a little bit to help somebody who may watch this who hasn't thought about it and hasn't prepared, and maybe that will help them start thinking and getting prepared. Because we're going to have to help one another, because times are getting very, very screwed up, and we're going to have to help one another while we can. Then when, it's going to be a tough call to help somebody in a martial law, because that person, you could help them, then you run low and you say, hey, I can't help you anymore, and they're going to run to the officials and narc you out for giving them food, and then your world's going to be turned upside down. So it's going to be rough. I mean, people don't think about that. They want to be charitable and friendly and helpful, but once you run low and you say, hey, I don't have it to help, they're going to go to these officials, these military, and they're going to tell them that you got food stored back, and you're going to get raided just for helping somebody. So there's a lot more to it, and I wish I could go on to details, but I don't want to keep this video too long. But tell me what you guys think. Leave me a comment, and let's help one another on this one. Start throwing some ideals out, and helping one another out to plan. I'm gonna get off of here. I was lucky today. I got to do a video, and it's still kind of hit and miss here, especially financial wise. I had to do something I didn't want to do, but I had to sell the boat. But you have to do what you have to do, and I can always replace the boat when I get back on my feet. But I hope this video helped you guys. I really do. I'm glad I had the chance to get out here and make the video for you guys. But I'm going to get off here. I'm going to download this, and I'm going to come back out. We went out and we got a whole truckload of red oak, white oak, and ash that I'm going to be splitting up and stacking. But everybody, be safe. Think about what I said, and leave me a comment. Bye for now, friends.